it's a ticket. Talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it.
And it's a ticket. Talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket. Talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket. Talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a.
To another episode of Head to Head with Brian Parker. I am he. And today we have our panelists with us. First and foremost, thank you everybody again for liking, sharing, subscribing to our YouTube channel and catching us on Roku as well. If you don't have us on Roku, what the hell is wrong with you? What are you waiting for? Go get you a streaming stick. Or if you already have a smart TV and you have Roku, then get your lazy behind onto it, add us as a channel, and start watching all the programming that we have, in addition to over 25 episodes of Head to Head with Brian Parker. We have sports shows, we have podcasts, we have comedy, we have short films. So get on it and make sure that you also let your friends know what you saw. If you have any comments about the show, please, we want to hear them all, good, bad, and indifferent. If they bad and I don't want to respond, I ain't going to respond to them no way. But you're more than free to do that at theparkermedia@gmail.com. I'm just messing with y'all. I like all the comments. I like to have debate with you, so I'll probably just troll you anyway. Anyway, let's get to it. Let's introduce our panel today. We have Mr. Michael Berry. How you doing, sir? Welcome back.
I'm pretty good. It's been a while. Glad to be back. Say hi, Pinto.
Looks like you've got a co-host there. Is that Pinto?
Beautiful dog, man. Beautiful.
Now, Pinto is going to be good in this because Pinto can kind of straddle the fence because he's black and white. And we're going to need, Pinto, we're going to need both points of view from you. So stay tuned. Also, we have Ms. Lori Parker. How you doing, Lori?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Are you she?
I am she.
She is. And we have Mr. Brad Coughlin. How you doing, sir?
Sir, always an honor to be here with you, bro.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you. We are blessed every time by your presence, for sure. And, you know, yeah, I forgot. We have our special guest who definitely needs no introduction because as world-renowned as he is, as popular as he is from our viewers that are tuning in from Paraguay, the Dominican Republic, United Kingdom, Canada, Mexico, and the United States this month. The reason that we are running overages every month in the amount of bandwidth that I have for this channel for the last 2 months, and I already saw the analytics today, it's going to be 3 straight months of us running over 500 megabytes of streaming data. We owe that no more than to our franchise, the one, the only, Mr. Jermaine Parker. How you doing, sir?
Hey man, I'm doing good. Let me say right now, before I get exposed by one of my side chicks, I'm sorry, and I'm not gonna have my wife on here with a bonnet.
Okay. Thank you for that disclosure, Jermaine. I'm sure all of your side chicks will appreciate that.
Because I am he.
Well, damn. I've been upstaged by my little brother. How about that? Anyway, people, what's going on? Hope y'all had a good week and everything. And, you know, last week, we had a great discussion about cancel culture. Wasn't that last week? I got my weeks right. Was that last week,
Yes.
Jermaine? All right.
Yes, sir.
Just make sure that Jim Beam hadn't sat in yet. So last week we were talking a lot about cancel culture, and you know, we were talking about some more that we may even dip a little bit more into that, and we'll come around to that. We'll kind of talk about a little bit of everything, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that, you know, over the last week we've had some more things going on in the news, such as the shootings in Atlanta, and then the massacre in Boulder, Colorado. And, you know, I'm gonna just be straight up, y'all. This shit is getting old. People shoot up places, then you see the folks in Washington give out their thoughts and their prayers. And I'm just kind of tired of thoughts and prayers, because while the sentiment may be nice, it ain't doing a damn thing to move the needle. And the talks keep getting pushed back as far as gun control, gun legislation, reasonable background checks, red flag laws, whatever. And because of lobbies and things like that, things get talked about, but things never get done, because obviously the only thing, you know, for parties that preach pro-life, they care more about pro-green. We see more about the NRA helping you vote your conscience than you really voting your conscience to keep people alive. But I wanted to bring up this because I know that we have gun owners. Let's say, I know, Jermaine, you're a gun owner, right?
I am.
Brad, you're a gun owner?
No.
Mike?
No.
I am not.
Okay, good. Now I know whose house I can break into.
That's
So,
right.
You don't want to break in my house.
oh yeah, you got Pinto now.
I don't have
No. Michael has Game of Thrones weapons, bro.
Oh, okay.
Catapults.
Okay. I
They
was
have
too
a
specific.
catapult.
I was too specific. I said guns. I didn't say, do you have some other crazy shit going on in your house? You probably got that thing read like Home Alone, you know?
Hey. You know
But
the
anyway.
expression from that movie, now you can't leave. Right.
Right.
I don't want to go in that house.
Well, I wanted to get, and I know that CJ, who's not with us today, is a gun owner as well. And I wanted to get the perspective from gun owners because, you know, it always gets thrown back that, you know, Democrats in particular are out to get your guns. And it's more of a scare tactic because no one's trying to get your guns. Well, okay, you're trying to get your guns. But the ones that are really more or less weapons of war. Can somebody please explain to me why it's important to have an AR-15 that is not a hunting weapon? It is meant to do damage.
I can tell you. Let me start early in the show with this is Black History.
Oh, here you go.
Let me start early. Is that I believe every Black family should have a semi-automatic rifle and stuff, because as we see, this goes back to when we organize the police their own stuff. It's about home protection, but it's about protecting us from people who are out to do us harm and stuff. When people say, "Why do you need it?" You don't need it. America is only 4% of the world's population. We own 40% of the world's guns. And so do we need that many guns? Obviously not. The problem with this country isn't gun control. It is, but it's guns. There's just too many guns in America. And in fact, the debate about gun control has been over since Sandy Hook. Once America said it was okay to kill children in elementary school, it's over. I don't know why we keep talking about it, because we've already come to an agreement that, well, it was tragic and everything, but kids can die. And so once you have that conversation, really the debate's over about if you're ever going to do anything.
Right. You already fell off that cliff.
Yeah. You're too far gone morally to question whether or not we're going to legislate something or we're going to take something away. People have said kids died and it was okay. So,
well, to your point about Sandy Hook, there were some out there that said it didn't even happen, that they were staged actors.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is really cold. Which is really cold to anybody that lost their child that day, to have the nerve to say some mess like that. Just like the 9/11 deniers that said that never happened, and you know, where was this, where was that? You know, it's really disrespectful to say when so many people lost people, knew people, and that kind of thing, to say that just because you don't want to deal with the actual issue. You know, or they say, you know, the best protection against a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
It's just not true. You know, I'm all for us. I'm all for Black Panther movements and organizing our communities and standing strong. But it's only because of the environment that we're in. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if we didn't have so many guns in America, there were not so many people out to hurt, destroy, maim the Black community and stuff. I wouldn't say that. Why do I have a gun? Because I don't trust them folks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brad.
No, I mean, I agree with Jermaine. You know, I don't have a gun, and I've always said, you know, as a social worker, like, that's not my reason for being here. And the moment, I've always said that the moment I feel like I need to go buy a gun is the day that I no longer need to be here. You know what I mean? When I get to the point where I feel like I need a gun, then it's a wrap for me. But the last year has kind of changed my mind a little bit. I'm thinking, well, one is I've got a buddy in Charlotte who's been going to a gun range lately, and he's been in my ear. Oh, and this is great. You got to do it. So I'm like, well, you know, maybe it is something I can look into is having a weapon for the home, and then, you know, going out shoot. I don't know.
You know, Brad, having a Glock or 9mm or some
Right.
kind of a handgun is probably more reasonable. Or,
Right.
you know, they say it used to be back in the day to defend the house. They say, okay, you have a shotgun. That's one thing. But you don't need a freaking AR-15 that's got an extended clip on it where you can fire off 30, 40, 50 rounds before you reload. How many damn deer are you shooting at?
So you're not shooting deer. And so what I'll say about this, part of the reason that you have a lot of people, and this is where the divide. So there's a couple things I want to break down. Number one, having guns for personal protection is not a Second Amendment right. A lot of people say that it is not. It's only a few sentences. It talks about a well-regulated militia, and the militia is a state organization. If the militia had to be well-regulated, why wouldn't the individual have to be well-regulated? You have to think about that. The other thing, too, is when we talk about gun ownership and type of guns, everybody always points to AR-15s because they're most commonly used in these kind of atrocities and stuff. However, what turns off people, the majority of gun owners, how about that? What turns off the majority of gun owners is that an AR-15 is there are rifles that are more powerful, more velocity, more impact, and then people inaccurately describe the capacity and the damage that you can do with AR-15. Not that you can't do damage; they have done damage and stuff, but people make them seem like they're not fully automatic. You know, you're not doing 50 rounds with an AR-15. You know, guns are regulated in this country to a point, and people that actually the legal gun owners actually know what the regulations are to have their guns and how much they have to go through to get their guns. And they're like, I don't want to be regulated anymore because I already had to do my background check. You know, like, so I got my permits and stuff. I had to do my background check. You want to carry conceal? That's fingerprints. That's this class. That's this. You know, you got to do this. There are rules for this. And people, law-abiding citizens, are like, don't group me in with those guys because I've done everything that the law required of me to get my firearm. And so it's a hard conversation to have with America because there are, you know, the majority of people that have their guns have them legally.
So I know that this isn't exactly apples to apples, but isn't the whole reason that when I go to the airport, I take my shoes off because some dumb son of a bitch sat there and ran a plane into a building?
Well, I mean, I hate to hog this, but this kind of goes back to my point about sandyhood. We're past the conversation of what it's like and what it will take. There gets to be a point where, like, you know, so January 6th, I'll keep bringing that up. There gets to be a point where people do stuff and you go, if that's not the threshold for it, then there is no threshold for it, right? If, you know, if these are not impeachable offenses, then there are no impeachable offenses.
Right.
That, you know, that these laws they don't have any meaning. And so this conversation about gun control doesn't have any meaning anymore because if that wasn't a threshold for it, then there are no thresholds. You can shoot in Vegas. How many people did that guy shoot in Vegas?
That's right.
Like 50, was it 50 something?
People.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously it's not a number limit. It's not an age limit. It's not a body count limit. There are no limits for this conversation in America. You can kill as many people. There's no number that you can kill in America will not be okay.
Yep.
He killed.
That's what Kennedy says.
He
And
killed
that's
the
really
cop.
because,
And
hey,
so
Kenny,
that's not the line either. He killed a police officer the other day. That's
Yeah.
not the line either because
Yeah.
they just don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
wait a minute, the party of law and order wasn't concerned?
Just saying.
Yeah. I don't know. What you think, Lori?
Well, I've thought about it myself, about taking lessons or going to a gun range, because
Let's do it.
moving down here, and especially with all of the, and I know this is a little stressful, especially for Brian to hear, but with all of the crazy folks that's around here, and especially the number of Trump flags that were around and all of this other stuff, I never thought about it when I was living in New York and living in Brooklyn, even though that's dangerous, and I lived in the 90s and went through that, but I have really thought about
Wait. You come from Brooklyn where you didn't think about having a gun to North Carolina. Now, gun might not be a bad idea.
That's what.
Yeah.
Obviously, you didn't live in East New
Here.
York.
I grew up in East New York. But
Well, then you know you need a gun.
it's a little bit different there.
Yeah.
We had guns in East New York, and I think, but they weren't legal guns.
right. I mean, you knew people who had guns, but they weren't legal. They didn't go through the background checks or all of that. They just happened to buy one and use it or have it for that way. But if I was thinking about going through the certification and background checks and getting fingerprinted, would actually like to, it's something that I've been thinking about.
And Lori, really the background checks that they're currently proposing, there are a lot of loopholes that they're trying to close. And one of the biggest loopholes is that, yeah, if I go to a gun store, if I go to Hyatt Guns and I want to buy a gun, then yeah, I'm going to get vetted and they're going to run me through a background check system. However, if Jermaine wants to sell me his Glock because he's getting the brand new Glock, he could just sit there and sell me his Glock, and there's no background check.
Well,
that's sad.
And that's what happens at trade shows, at gun shows and stuff. They're not regulated. They basically, I mean, a person can say, hey, let me see your North Carolina ID because I want to make sure you're in state, right? And as long as they get a good vibe from you, they can say you're gun.
Right. So, that's the danger. And then you hear a lot of these people in Congress that'll say, well, passing this law wouldn't have necessarily stopped this incident. Okay, that's true, but passing seatbelt laws didn't stop all accidents. You don't say, well, just because the law that we're proposing, if it doesn't stop it all, then don't do it at all. That's the stupidest argument out there. But that's the only one that they can use, because the real truth of the matter is, like Jermaine so eloquently said, if little kids getting killed ain't gonna make you pump the brakes, then pretty much nothing will. But it's a tragedy that it appears, but we don't know for sure, but it appears that our Asian American community was targeted because of where the guy actually went. He said it had something to do with his sexual addiction, but it just so happened that 6 out of the 8 people were of Asian descent.
And he didn't go to Magic City?
I'm sorry, can you remind us about Magic City? Can you remind us about Magic City?
That's why I have my sexual addiction.
What's that, Disney?
Is that Disney?
I don't relate.
How does it end? How does it end?
Grown up Disney. Hey, Brad, is a magical place.
A lot of happy endings.
What kind of ending is there?
Happy endings. No, but it's somebody said the other day on one of the shows that, and it was profound. It kind of made me stop eating. Like, damn, coming out of what we just came out of this election cycle, it's easier to buy a strong kill 100 people weapon than it is to vote. Like, bro, what the hell are we talking about here? What do we believe in? We don't believe in democracy. We believe in, protecting the rights of the folks who are out and rural Oklahoma. So I don't want to judge those folks because that's their life and that's what they do. They want the big guns to go big aim, whatever. I don't care. But we've got to regulate it in some way, form, or fashion. We've got to do something.
Yeah, see, they don't want that to go away, because if you looked at a lot of these rallies, if you looked at when they came to Washington or when they marched on Michigan at the State House, they had AR-15s.
That's right.
That is an assault rifle.
That's right.
I think that's what AR stands for.
No, and so it doesn't. But and this is the point, and this is the misleading part of this conversation, is that we have this conversation, and you'll say something like that, and somebody like, he doesn't even know what the fucking AR stands for. And this, it's not an assault rifle, it's just a rifle. And so rifles are rifles, and I guess that's the thing to break down. It's a popular style of rifle, but a hunting rifle will do as much or more damage than an AR round. They have longer barrels, more velocity. There's more spin on the bullet. Bullets higher grain and stuff. They can do more damage than AR rounds and stuff.
Right.
And it's one of those kind of distracting conversations because people are like, well, why do you care about ARs? Because if you take my AR away, I've got Winchesters and everything else over here that I can do stuff with.
Because the magazine on an AR can carry more bullets.
And so that's a misnomer. You can put magazines on these rifles, and that's why gun people are like, people that don't own guns don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
And they're right. When we talk about gun control, the problem is not the type of guns, it's the amount of guns that we have in this country. Again, we're 4% of the population, and we own 40% of the guns in the world. It is not what the type of guns that we have. It is guns. It doesn't matter if it's a handgun, a shotgun, or a rifle. We have too many guns. That's why we talk about in Brooklyn. Oh, we know people had guns. They were illegal. Well, how did they get there? Because we have so many guns out there.
Right.
That you can have a black market for guns.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so and that's my thing. When we talk about this, I'd like us to focus on the number of weapons that we have and a regulation of weapons in general, and not just a type of weapon, because that's where you lose gun people, because they're like, that type of weapon is not the only type of weapon that has a magazine to it. It's not the only rifle.
So when you look at Donald Trump Jr. with the gun collection behind him, or you look at Lauren Boebert with the guns behind her.
Did you see that? That? Yeah.
And then when she was on again because of what had just happened, miraculously they disappeared. Because she didn't want to be cast as being, insensitive to what just happened. So people are
in her state
aware. Yeah.
In her state, right.
In her state, right. So is it the amount of guns they had behind them? Is that the problem, Jermaine? Like, they have too many guns? And are you going to win? Are you going to win over gun owners more by telling them, well, you can have guns, you just can't have 20 of them?
No, you're not. So here's the thing: because of the it's in American DNA, and so you have to understand that going all the way back to the founding of this country, guns were an important part of how there were more Indians than Europeans in this country.
Mm-hmm.
What helped them were guns, right? Guns helped them equalize numbers. It helped protect. It helped feed. It helped move the economy of this country. It's in the DNA of this country. There are people now who grew up on small and rural areas and stuff, and they grew up. When we were in high school and stuff, how many trucks did you see that had gun racks on?
Right.
Guns are they're in the DNA of this country. You couldn't say 10 guns, 15 guns, or 20 guns because there's somebody out there that wants to have 50 guns.
Right.
The people don't want you taking their guns at all. But I would like to point out the only person in the last, I don't know, forever that ever talked about taking guns was Donald Trump. He said, and you can go look at the clip and stuff, but it was out there shooting stuff, and he's sitting there, his arm folded and stuff, and they were talking about, well, we do due process, take to the court. Well, I said we just go get the guns, and the courts take too long, and we'll do due process. They keep talking, so the politicized part of this of, Democrats are trying to take your guns. Donald Trump said, I'm going to take your guns without due process, and nobody said anything. They act like they didn't hear him. So
they really did. They really did.
So when we have the discussion, And he said that he was their champion and stuff. And he said, I'm going to come take your guns. And no one said a word. It's not about that, right? This is, as you pointed out, this is about money. It's politicized and stuff like that. But again, it is number. How many guns do you need? How many cars do you need? You know, this is a Western kind of thing where I need 5 cars. You can't drive 5 cars. I need 20 guns. There's no possible way for you to shoot 20 guns.
Right. Yeah.
You know, in defense, I mean, I don't know what horde or wave, and what people don't understand, the same thing that came up in January 6th is that when people that have guns say, I need this gun to protect me from the government in case the government goes rogue on me. Well, I'm still in the military. You talking about me? Because I'm the government. The police officers at the Capitol, that was government. That was why they justified in their mind, well, the government's not working for me. So, you know, this law and order thing only works when it works the way I want it to work.
Yeah, true that. Mike, what you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking that down south is way different than up here in New York.
It is. It is.
Up here, we don't fight for the right to have guns because most people here don't have legal weapons anyway. If I want a gun, I can go get one.
Oh yeah.
You need one for those Bobcats.
You probably don't have to walk too many blocks in
I had to
Harlem
get
and
the
you can
Bobcats.
find a gun. That's true. That's true. Okay. Well, I did just want to dip my toe in the guns, and that's what we did. Also, breaking news today. Laura, you're supposed to do that turnaround. No, okay, never mind. We'll do it next time. The great state of Georgia, the legislature, by a party line vote of 100 to 75, has approved these dumbass voter restriction laws. It is set to go to Brian Kemp's desk, where he is expected to sign it. In case anybody's been under a rock, Georgia, since Warnock and Ossoff won the Georgia runoffs against Loeffler and Perdue, have vowed to restrict voting rights. You know, it's kind of funny that, you know, if you lose a game, instead of saying we'll go back to the drawing board and get better, we'll just try to change the rules of the game so that we can win that way. You know, for the Republicans, what's happening is that their message is only attracting a minority of the country. And what they're trying to do is suppress enough votes for that minority to have the majority of the votes. And a lot of this, in my opinion, is the fault of Democrats, because for the longest, they've allowed them to get away with a lot of gerrymandering. So this is just gerrymandering on steroids. You've let them change maps and things for so long. Now they're just going to outright basically say, we're going to just change how and disenfranchise people to vote. They're trying to close souls to the polls, which they know that in most African-American communities, people go to church and they go vote. Not that they can't go vote on other days, but some days, Sunday is the day that they do have off.
Yep.
You know, another thing that they're trying to do, and in Georgia in particular, there were instances where people stood in line for 11 and 12 hours to make sure that Trump would not be reelected. And if you try to give somebody in line a bottle of water, it is illegal. It's a crime. You can be arrested for giving somebody a bottle of water. You can't have hydrating stations open before they get in the line. Of course, you can give them some water, but hell, 11 hours later, and they're still in line. Sorry. They're trying to minimize ballot boxes, where ballot boxes will only be available during business hours. But what does that mean? I work a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. shift. By the time I get off at 7 p.m., I can't drop my ballot off in the ballot boxes because they're only out during business hours. They're trying to change the amount of time people can vote early, restricting the amount of time. They're trying to restrict absentee ballots, have to be requested 11 days before election day. They're trying to make sure that there's voter ID. They're trying to make sure that, one of the bigger ones is that the state election board can remove county official election board members and replace them with interim people. See, they wanted to do this last time because when the county people in different counties like Fulton County, where that is predominantly black, did not want to find enough ballots for Donald Trump to win. What they really wanted to do was be able to replace those electors with other people that would kind of swing it in their favor. And legally they couldn't do that. Now they can. So a lot of this stuff is not only being proposed in Georgia, but there's over 250 bills over the entire country where they're trying to roll back a lot of voting rights laws and everything else. What do you guys think about that?
It's been signed already. He's on TV right now announcing.
Damn!
It's a law. Yep.
They just passed it.
It's a done deal. He's
God.
already it's a done deal.
It's 96 pages. He already signed it. He must have been sitting in the back room.
Oh, he probably wrote the damn thing. You know what I
He
mean?
probably did. Since he
You know
wrote,
what?
he wrote the rules to his own election. He did.
You know, when you talk about woke, folks being woke, Georgia showed us that they were woke, right? They showed us several times. They showed us in the presidential election, and then they showed us in the two Senate runoffs that they were woke. The problem with that is that folks, you know, we don't know how long lasting it is. We know that our attention span, you know, it's not very long. So what is it going to look like? We'll find out in a couple of years when they go to the polls again. But we see right through this. We know exactly what it is that they're not trying to do what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm concerned about that, Brad, because you're right. I think what helped this time around was Donald Trump was such a polarizing figure. I mean, you really weren't in the middle. Either you loved the man or you hated his guts. And then it was just going to be a matter of who could galvanize enough people on one side or the other to come out and vote against it.
Yep.
Can the next election be that unifying of a message that, hey, if you guys really think what Joe Biden is doing and the Democrats are trying to do and the obstruction of Congress and everything else, and you feel like they need a little bit more time and we need to add to the seats so they can break filibusters and things like that, or are they going to show up in numbers in an off-year election like the midterms where there's not a presidential person on the ballot? That's why we continuously talk about the president is one person. The agendas are set a lot of times by the House or by the Senate. They're set by local governments and state legislatures, as we see now in Georgia. Having Joe Biden as the president did not stop this legislation from happening. So obviously it takes more than just getting, you know, Joe Biden in the White House. It has to do with who are we looking at locally and putting in these positions that are doing things to discourage you from wanting to vote in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ryan, you like your thinking?
Oh no, man! I'm a ball hog, so I'm trying to share. But here's the thing. Again, here's your American history: is that this has been going on since Reconstruction and before that, right? Is that the South, primarily before the war, enacted things to make sure that their votes counted just as much, even when they were outnumbered. And that's how you get the gerrymandering. That's how you get post-Reconstruction. There were a lot of things. The North basically said, just like Democrats say to Republicans, hey, we're sorry that we're beating up on you and stuff. Here's how we're going to level the playing field. We're going to allow things like the filibuster. We're going to allow things like gerrymandering. We're going to allow legislation like redlining that will keep people, black people within their communities. That way, when we vote and stuff, it's impossible for them to spread out and dilute the vote and stuff because they're only in one district. That's why, you know, when we're talking about the election stuff months ago, I said, and I am still a proponent of black people having their own political party. That way, we're not going to people asking them to understand our struggles. We're going to people asking them to carry our struggles forward. And so I think it's an important thing that when we talk about uniting and the things and these laws and stuff, and by the way, these, as soon as he signed it, there will be a lawsuit, Citizens United, Mr. Ellis. There are a lot of people out there who've been waiting for these things to drop, and so it'll be in litigation and stuff. It won't go into effect right away. I mean, he signed it. You know, yes, it's law. It'll be law until a judge sees the litigation against it, and it'll be all the things that we said. Hey, this is voter suppression. Why is it illegal? You know, tell me how it's illegal to give somebody a bottle of water. Why is it lying? Do
you think a stacked court with Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Neil Gorsuch will sit there and overturn it or put a stay on it where it's not in effect? Because I agree with you, it's going to go to lawsuits, and it'll start with the district circuit courts and everything else, and it'll ultimately end up right in front of the Supreme Court. Side note, that's why in Mississippi, I think it was, Asa Hutchinson sat there and passed this abortion law, because he even said, as of right now, the way the law is, what we just passed is unconstitutional. But I did it so that it would go to the Supreme Court so we can try to overturn Roe v. Wade. So isn't it sometimes what they're trying to do is push the envelope to get it in front of the Supreme Court to see if those three Trump judges will end up changing law for decades to come?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that's the agenda. I think that was the whole thing. That's why no matter what you say about his first term for Mitch McConnell with the help of Donald Trump, it was very successful because these conservative judges were put in place. Now, and especially for these ideas and stuff. But you got to remember, when we talk about the law and the Supreme Court said that black people weren't people. Mm. That was a law. It was okay to have slaves. The Supreme Court said that. So when we talk about stacked courts, they've always been stacked. I don't know a court. Well, tell me of a court makeup that was not stacked for that. In our history, it's always this whole thing is stacked against us all the way to the Supreme Court. Once again, y'all need to get a gun.
Yeah, it seems like that, right?
Yeah, you know, I think if I come away with anything from this particular show is that I need to start hunting for guns, I guess, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I got a guy could make you a custom AR. Cost about $1,100. Good stuff.
I don't want no AR. I just want a Glock. I just want a nice Glock, and we can get Lori like a little 22 or something.
Yeah,
like a little pink 22. Those don't have no safeties on it, and she may shoot me by accident.
Well, it won't be an accident, Brian. It won't be an accident.
That's what she'll tell everybody else.
No,
I don't know. It was an act. I was just kind of doing like this, and he walked in front of me, and I thought he was a deer.
No, that is no. I would never do that. Never.
I recommend a revolver for you, not magazine. I recommend a revolver.
If he wears that purple pimp suit again, Lori,
take
him out. If we see the purple pimp hat, take him out.
I don't want to say it.
Listen, I've been trying to burn that thing ever since the party. And when he pulled it out the other day, it was horrible.
But he never seems as happy as when he has that. That is him. That he is home. He feels right with that purple pimp suit on.
And we will, and it may become missing. Trust me. I'm here all the time.
All right. Well, that's the beautiful thing about Amazon, and I got Prime, so I have another one here tomorrow.
That's okay, and I have Prime too. And we can send it right back.
That's a good thing about Prime. Thank you, Jeff Bezos. I appreciate you, buddy.
No, but when you're talking about guns, I mean, they even had a news story about another individual who actually brought in a big, long firearm at a Publix in Atlanta. They had to kind of shut it down. And I'm like, you can't go to the grocery store. That's why, for me, going back to my point of how I've been really thinking about it is a lot of times I'm here by myself. And not to say that a gun is going to make me feel better, but you got a guard dog. I just think the randoms that roll around this neighborhood, like there's a gentleman who just walks up and down the road in the middle of the night and late sometimes. So it just, I think if I would be able to know how to at least handle a firearm and get that knowledge, that might make me feel a little bit more comfortable. Not to say, Brian, that you're not my protector, because you are.
I don't know what you're talking about, because I'm gonna be locked in the room myself. So God's will. But
y'all come hang out down here.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah,
we'll do that
between
because
Jermaine
you're
and
in even a
CJ,
darker place. Your streets are dark as hell. So anyway,
between Jermaine and CJ, I think y'all in good hands and stuff.
I do too, because CJ is like little Rambo anyway. So
Bro.
you know, anytime I go over to CJ's, it's, hey, let me pull out these guns. Let me show you this, Brian, come here, let me show you this. He's right. The gun bigger than he is. He just wants to show it to him. I'm like, oh my God. So anyway, but with the voting, so I agree with you, Jermaine. We're gonna see how that goes. Mike, did you have anything about the voting? About the voting, the restrictions and everything and suppression that's going on?
Not really. I mean, it's not really surprising. The Republicans actually even said that if they didn't change these laws, they would probably never win anything again, because they realize that they represent a very small population of the country. So the only way for them to not become the minority party forever is to stop people from actually being able to vote.
Yeah, but how do you say in one breath you're a constitutionalist? You know, and then you're trying to figure out how to suppress voting.
But
Again,
I know what he's
also
gonna say.
backfire on them as well. Because I mean, even if you've established these laws, it's not just Black people who work 7 to 7. White people do too. They may hold a couple of other jobs. This may prevent them from either getting on, if they work second or third shifts. Those laws are still, that law is in effect, will prevent them. I'm not just saying that it's just not all about Black people, but wouldn't that also turn the tables on them? Because now, since people are aware, okay, you're trying to suppress my right to vote and this one, so are we going to get the same thing that we had before, like with Stacey Abrams, and people had this, like they are going to get.
Well, Lori, to answer your question, not as proportionately as it affects African Americans. And before Jermaine jumps into the because we Black thing, because I know he's biting at the bit for that one. I felt it coming even as I was asking the question. I knew that he's gonna say, "Look, I don't know." Here goes Jermaine. I don't know how many times I got to tell y'all this. I say this all the time. I know he's gonna go there, and he's right, and he's right. But what happens, Lori, is statistically speaking, African Americans and people of color in general tend to vote early. More Republicans tend to vote day of. That's what they're counting on, getting their people out on election day to vote. They know that most people demographically in African American communities, and they saw the evidence of it by this election because of what COVID put us in a position to have to realize as a current normal, was being able to get absentee ballots without having an excuse. There were a lot of places before where absentee ballots had to be, you were going to be out of town, you're not going to be there that day, and you had to be able to put that in. And then a lot of them moved into no excuse voting. A lot more early voting days were put into place. So it made it so much easier for people to vote. If people could do their ballots and then drive to a ballot drop and drop it in, that is so much easier than sitting there waiting in line on election day. They knew that. That attracted more of us. What happens is they go day of, so they're like, well, if they don't like to go day of, but our people like to go day of, who is the suppression gonna impact more? It's going to impact us.
Okay,
That's what they're going
I,
for.
I hear you, and I'm just thinking of, as for someone who's been voting since I was 18, since I turned 18 years old, and I always in
2 years ago.
Huh?
2 years ago.
No, I'm a little older than that, but that's
You don't look it. You don't look.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But in voting, and I was like, I voted the day of. When I was a resident of New York State, I never voted early. I always voted on election day for every election. And if that meant I had to stand in line, I stood in line, and I did it the day of. Now, if you're saying that more white people are going to sit here and go on the day of,
They do.
not necessarily. I mean, again, I don't know how it is down here, but I'm thinking of my experience when I lived in New York.
Well, in New York, they don't do it because you guys vote blue every year anyway.
That's true.
So you are right. In North Carolina, yeah, they show up on the day of down here. Strong. Because it's a toss-up state.
Yeah, so I don't know how many times I got to tell you.
Here you go.
It's a black thing. So.
It's a black thing. I'm telling you. So
It's a black-red thing. What are you trying to tell me?
And so this is like Voltron, where we combine past shows together to form this overwhelming white supremacy beast, right? Is that when we talk about voter suppression, we have to take in consideration when we talk about the minimum wage conversation we had a couple weeks ago about why is it that we don't pay people minimum wage? Why is it that we want to keep people in poverty and stuff? This all rolls in together.
Yes,
This is a planned thing, because if you're working a minimum wage job, you don't have time off. There is no, I can take time off from my shift at name whatever thing, and I can go vote day of. If you are professional, and most professionals are on the blank, you can have that kind of time off or that kind of flexibility and stuff. It is a social economic kind of stance. And that's why if it wasn't, then why make the laws tailored and say the things that they do? They are trying to, and so the thing is, they can't regulate guns, but they can't regulate Black lives. And what they're doing is they're saying, we know how to stop Black people. We don't know how to stop Black bullets, but we can stop. But now, if you were a bullet, you could get through the line as long as you want to, but you're not. The priority is not on people. The priority is on and keeping it, like I say, everybody says this. We all know this. They're outnumbered. Most of the Democratic policy and stuff are overwhelmingly supported by the country and stuff. When we look at the popular vote, the Democrats hadn't won. The Republicans hadn't won a popular vote in like 30 years. Like one time in 30 years. Once in 30 years, they won the popular vote. What does that say? It says the things that we, like I said, we had this conversation about the Electoral College and why that should be abolished. We can have a conversation about the filibuster in the Senate and why the filibuster is used and when it's used. The filibuster is explicitly a racist tactic, because anytime that it's been used, it's mostly been historically been used for civil rights.
Right.
Yes, that is true.
And Mitch McConnell just failed to mention when it happened. Like, he didn't recognize it. Oh, it's got nothing to do with civil rights or
I didn't know how he said that without his whole head exploding.
So look, we have to understand that there's a side that thrives on disinformation. Dominion Voting Systems levied like $1 billion lawsuit against one of Trump's lawyers. The young lady said she was going to release the Kraken and stuff, and she just said in court, because what did she say in court for her defense? No reasonable person would have listened to the shit I said and took it to be true.
Right.
Even though she went on Fox News every night and told Lou Dobbs and Lord Ingram that I got binders and binders of proof. The proof is so overwhelming, it's like a fire hose just coming out.
So
when she's personally being sued, right? She's being sued.
So anytime, like Mitch McConnell, he didn't conveniently forget. Hell, he looks like he was alive when they were doing Reconstruction. He probably sat through a lot of these conversations. So he didn't forget. It's just that, so let me tell you this, they just passed a rescue plan, 1.7 trillion and stuff, and I've been seeing this meme on my Facebook about how Democrats prioritize illegal aliens more than they do homeless vets because they were spending X amount of $1 million on homeless on illegal to house illegal immigrants. Number one, they were doing the same thing through Trump's administration. They were putting them in hotels too, but you know, of course, who cares about that? But the other thing is, if you look into the bill, they put $17 billion to the VA that covers a wide range of things to include vet homelessness, which, by the way, is unproportionately minority based for veterans that are homeless.
Right.
So they don't. That's why I know that. That's why vets are still homeless because most of them are minorities.
Wow.
Mm.
Oh, I'm trying to tell you. Look, look. If I had a tambourine, I would start church up in here.
Well.
Oh boy, don't get her going, please. She looked like the bookkeeper counting the offer money in the back. Right. No, you bring up the right point, Jermaine. That it's systemic. It all rolls in together. But Lori, to that greater point, the voting rights, and if they didn't think it gave them any kind of advantage, they wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't do it. If they didn't see that this disproportionately affects people of color who, statistically speaking, not as a monolith, but statistically speaking, vote Democratic. They know that, but they know that they do not have the Democrats that they can try to convince, hey, vote for us because of our policies. They know that their policies are not popular with even independents. So what they're doing is they're trying to shrink the voting bloc and take their chances. This is, in the words of the great Donald Trump, what the hell do you have to lose? We can't win when it's this many people that vote. So what we're going to do is we're going to shrink it down and see if we have a better chance. To Jermaine's point, they can't win the damn popular vote. No. And that's why the Electoral College will not go away, because that's the only thing that gives them a shot of getting elected. This is why they're fighting tooth and nail right now. Muriel Bowser, they did it again. They brought up the whole thing about statehood for Washington. They ain't trying to hear that. They ain't trying to hear that. They do not want 2 U.S. senators to be permanently Democratic because Washington, D.C. votes Democratic. So then they try to say, well, the state is small, and D.C. is actually slightly smaller than South Dakota. South Dakota has 2 senators. North Dakota has 2 senators. It used to just be the Dakotas. They split it in 2 so that they can have 2 extra senators that would always be Republican.
Yes.
So to Jermaine's point, they've been stacking stuff forever.
Forever. What's the young black gymnast Simone
Biles.
Yeah. So you know they've actually made rules that some of the moves that she can do because no one else can do them are illegal because she was because there was a black skater and so the one that did the backflip would always do the backflip. Well, the backflip's illegal, and the reason that they said that the backflip was illegal is because in order to have a skating move, you had to land on 2 feet. Well, she figured out how to do it on 2 feet, and they said, well, you can't. It's still illegal because if you can do something that separates you from other people, we gonna even play the field. We will change the rule to make sure that you can't run away with this.
Boy, they would have done that to Tiger Woods a long time ago when he broke open golf and stuff, I guess.
No, they took him to the Waffle House and said, you can have all the waitresses you can, as a plot. Hey, Tiger, get well. I'll see you on the back 9.
Funny, he couldn't have his porn stars, but Trump could. Anyway, I digress.
I supported that with Tiger. Hey, if you're going to be like anybody, be like Tiger, because everybody came up and said Tiger. They said, oh, no, Tiger, he was the truth. He was the truth. If you're going to have a scandal where everybody telling you that you're the truth. He should have flipped that dead Trojan commercials, dropped them damn Buicks and rode that horse in.
Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, so D.C., I don't know how, here's the thing. There's a lot of agenda items that Biden is going to have to try to get through, and it's a delicate situation because, as we've alluded to, the filibuster is going to get in the way. Now, they keep talking about bipartisanship, and Biden is talking about, hey, I might not have bipartisanship in Congress, but I got bipartisanship in the country because a lot of these things are familiar. He's riding over a 60% approval rating in his first 60-something days in office, which is amazing. That just does not happen. But he has to realize at a certain point that these people are not genuinely going to try to help you have any accomplishments. Even if these things help the lives of ordinary people and their own constituents, just like this package did. You know, they sat there and said, well, it gives money to inmates. Okay, well, the last two that you signed under Trump did too. Didn't have no problem with that. So they just keep trying to find convenient reasons not to be in agreement, and they're just looking like they're out of touch. But the thing is that now they're wanting to pass this Voting Rights Act. And as it stands, if nothing changes, you need 60 votes to get this enacted, meaning that if you keep all of your caucus together, that's only 50. You still need to be able to convince 10 other Republicans to cross the aisle, reject what their party stance is, and come along for the ride. Now, Joe Biden can be the biggest optimist in the world, but there's a line between being an optimist and a downright fool. If you sit there and play these 2 years back and forth and not getting anything done, then they're going to judge you on what you didn't get done, and you can say all you want. You can scream obstruction, obstruction, obstruction. People ain't gonna give a damn because they're gonna look at their lives and see how you, as the one in power, help or not help their lives. So if you're gonna, and you know, normally the party in power loses in the midterms. That's normally the case. If you want to reverse that case, then you need to push everything you possibly can through. Because again, in the words of Donald Trump, what the hell do you have to lose? The clock is ticking. They got less than 2 years to push this stuff through. And the only way they're going to be able to do that is they have to get rid of the filibuster. That's it. They got to get rid of it.
You know, Mick talked about it being a scorched earth kind of plan that they got, nothing would move and stuff. And I think to myself, if you look at the 4 years that he was the leader over the Senate, it was the same thing. You know, it's essentially somebody trying to tell you that it's going to be worse than what it was, but they're exactly describing exactly the thing of how it was. And it's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he acted as if those things hadn't been done before.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's body wasn't even cold, and you already replaced her.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you kidding me? Are you trying to make it sound like you were reserved? How many times did y'all ram stuff through and you didn't have Democrats in committee doing it? Y'all did it in the back room, then you threw it out on the floor, you voted for it, didn't even sit there and have any debate on it at all.
Yeah.
And he's acting like, oh, they ain't do all of that. Like, he got this kind of amnesia going on. Like, if y'all are ramming stuff through, and where's the bipartisanship? And where's this? Damn, Mitch, you had like today your first day in Congress. You had like you didn't do none of that stuff. Like, you wasn't there. You weren't the one that said, well, no, it's 18 months before the election, but Merrick Garland can't get a vote. But it's a couple of weeks before the election, and Amy Coney Barrett's good to go.
Right.
And then tried to rationalize it and say, well, when you have a Senate and the president of the same party, then that's okay. But if the Senate and the president are different parties, then yeah, we can hold up a Supreme Court vote even 18 months away from the election. You know, if you have Lindsey Graham promising as the judiciary chairman that if Trump is the president and the spot comes open and we're in election season, we're going to let the next president decide. To Lindsey Graham going, never mind that. So they act like they have any principles to fall on. Democrats, stop trying to work with these people. I know Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema from Arizona keep talking about they don't want to pass legislation where there are no Republican votes. They don't want Kamala Harris to be the tiebreaker. They want to have bipartisanship. I don't know what y'all looking at to make y'all think that these people are interested in anything that you have to do. Just like Jermaine said about the whole thing about kids getting killed, and that didn't make nobody stop. We literally sat there and cut child poverty in half, and they still didn't vote for it.
Right.
They don't care. All they care about is power.
Yes.
That's it at the end of the day. It's power.
Right.
And if they can make you look bad and feel bad, then they think that that's a winning message for them. So they have no incentive at all.
And
you ain't going to get 3 of them to cross.
And to this point, remember, no one voted, not one Republican voted for this relief bill.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, as soon as it passed, there were Republicans campaigning in their own states about the benefits of the bill.
And that they helped.
Right. So when you talk, that's the thing. Like I say, you got to have good faith, and I don't care what you're saying. You got to have good faith in relationship. Unless you're Jaron Jackson, you've been giving out relationship advice and decide to blew you up. But anyway, you got to have good faith in a relationship that the people that you're dealing with are going to abide by the rules. And when you see that they're not doing good faith and stuff, then if they don't want to honor the rules and stuff, then the rules don't exist and you can do what you want. You can play like they play. You can ram things through. You can hold meetings and not let Republicans know that you're holding meetings and stuff, put it on the floor, voting stuff, and get things passed. Right. I mean, why not? Because like Brian said, most of the party in power, there's a really good chance they're going to lose those seats anyway. Because everybody blames what's wrong on the people that currently wield the power.
Right.
So we might as well pass all the things that you can pass.
That's right.
Because once you lose it, you're not going to have any opportunity to do it. And nobody cares about, and Republicans don't care about Democratic votes. They just care about results.
Right.
And here's the thing, Jermaine, for a lot of these things that they're doing, once you give people stuff, it's hard to take it away. That's why we still have Medicare, Social Security. Because once people started having some of that, oh, you weren't going to take it away and stay in office.
And all of the benefits of Obamacare. All of the benefits of Obamacare, they loved it. And they were upset when people tried to take it away. Once
they fought it tooth and nail to get it passed.
My kid can't stay on until he's 25? Right.
Well, and it was the Republicans that started calling it Obamacare because they tried to use it as a derogatory way of souring how people felt about it.
And it worked.
It did work.
Because
all
the men on the interviews that they did, they hated Obamacare, but they loved the Affordable Care Act. They loved it.
Yeah. I remember the story about when they were asking people in Mitch McConnell's state of Kentucky, how do you feel about Obamacare? Well, I hate that shit. I hate Obamacare. They were like, well, how do you like Connect? Oh, we love that. We love Connect. Connect's great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, Connect is Obamacare.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's a disconnect. There's a disconnect.
That was like the time Lori fooled me with kale and made me think it was greens or something. And I'm just eating it up. And I'm like, why did you get kale? You been eating it? Like, no, I haven't. Yeah, you have. I gave it to you plenty of times.
It was 3, actually. 3 times. 3 times I've fed it to you, and I got caught at the grocery store.
Same thing.
Yeah. Yep. And the lesson for this, Brian, is that you need to watch yourself because evidently you ain't checking what you're eating, and you slip up, you're gonna be out of here.
I told you plenty of times, Jermaine.
Packaging so I can show him specifically.
Jermaine, I told you plenty of times if something happens, she did it.
After you wore that pimp suit, man, I don't know if I can say anything. I'm just gonna have to comfort your bereaved wife.
Mm-hmm. With her little revolver or 22, she did it. 18 times she did it by accident.
By accident. Over and over again.
Shots by accident.
Yeah.
Fell up the stairs 3 times.
I had to make sure he was still moving a little bit.
I didn't want him to suffer.
Yeah.
No, it would have been the suit, not Brian. I know Brian.
I thought it was Barney.
Do that.
I just had a sheep shooting. I thought it was Barney.
No, it would just actually be that entire suit. Yes.
And he
No,
happened to be
you
in
can't
it.
call it the suit. You
He
can't
happened to
call
be
it
in
the
it.
suit. You got to give it its due justice. The purple pimp suit. You got to call it by its full name. The purple pimp suit.
No, and not with them white shoes either. No, no, all of them have to go.
You can't take my white boots now.
Yes,
Now
I
you
will.
done, now you done gone too far.
I'm gonna take
Anyway,
them.
you done gone too far. Anyway, so all of this just rolls in together. But if they don't pass a lot of this legislation and they're just holding it, they've got things like infrastructure that they're looking at doing. They're wanting to address things with climate change. They're wanting to address more with healthcare, immigration. All these kind of things are going to come due. And as many recesses and things like that that they take, 2 years may sound like a lot of time, but when you remove this break and that break, this weekend and that weekend, you're really scaling down how much legislative time you have. And if you don't get these things done in the first 2 years, then you're just a lame duck president in the last 2 years. If they regain even the Senate and maybe they take over the House, then you're just the president, and you're not going to get anything done. And they're going to try to get stuff done, and you ain't going to be able to veto it, because if they have a veto-proof majority, then they're going to get you that way too. So go bold. You have nothing to lose. Push your agenda, but you got to get the filibuster out of the way. Now, some way or another, they have to get Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema to feel a little bit better without trying to. And a lot of people say, "Why don't they just keep pushing and pushing Joe Manchin?" Here's the problem: Joe Manchin is from the state of West Virginia. Donald Trump won this state by over 40 points. He's a different kind of Democrat, which, in my opinion, he ain't really won at all. But he's caucusing with the Democrats. He says he's a moderate Democrat. But my feeling is, if you push him too hard, he's just going to cross the aisle like Arnold Specter did. And then you're going to end up with Mitch McConnell instantly becoming the majority leader all over again. And I'm sure Mitch McConnell gets in his ear a lot. Joe, come on over here, Joe. They ain't treating you right, Joe. They keep talking mess about you. They even sent Kamala Harris into your state without telling you. How you think that make you feel, Joe? They probably Mitch McConnell look like he do little slick stuff like that. So if we go in guns blazing and keep trying to press Joe Manchin, and see, here's the other problem: you ain't gonna be able to primary him in West Virginia, because the fact that he keeps winning is not normal. Because the other senator from West Virginia is a Republican, Capito. But if you try to primary Joe Manchin, what you're gonna end up with is 2 Republican senators from West Virginia. Meaning that what you really need to do in these midterms is then try to find other vulnerable Republicans. Like I think Roy Blunt is leaving from Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to go after. I think my man in Ohio is leaving, so you're going to have to go after that. Pat Toomey is leaving in Pennsylvania. Those are what you need to say. Okay, we take Joe Manchin out of the picture. We down to 49. Can we get these other 3 and potentially some other ones that are a little weaker that we can go after? Joe Manchin is lost. Spending your time trying to primary Joe Manchin just doesn't make any sense. Right. Because whether Joe Manchin becomes a Republican or you end up having them get a Republican, it's going to have the same effect. So West Virginia is lost. Really, we should never have West Virginia. And spending your time trying to keep him happy is also a waste of time too. So yes, you're right. You got to come up off of him. Look for you're gonna have to slightly stroke him for right now, knowing that your end game is that you're not going to be able to count on him. That's what I was worried about with a 50-50 Senate, because there's too many moderate Democrats, and it's not just Sinema and Manchin. You even got Big John Tester from Montana. That's more of a moderate. And here's the biggest problem now. Is that the way the country is going, being a moderate and a centrist, you're in no man's land, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, because the country is so divided. To the left, there's progressives that have taken over. Even independents are more progressive. And then you got your Republicans, your so-called conservatives, that only care about fiscal responsibility when there's a Democrat as president. but people are that divided. So the centrists have nobody's interested, because the whole thing about being a centrist means you want to see things in the middle. You want to compromise. Well, compromise has become a dirty word. Nobody wants to compromise, even though they preach bipartisanship, which is compromising. So they say it, but they don't do it. So you have your progressives that say, no, we're tired of just peeling around the edges and getting legislation done. We need you to do both things. We need green jobs. We need better health care for all. You know, we need infrastructure packages. You know, we need higher wages. You know, we need $15 minimum wages. That's not a centrist point of view. So if you want to push those things, you're pushing a progressive agenda, and you're isolating a lot of Democrats that are not comfortable with a lot of the progressive stuff, and they want to stay in the middle. And the goal is to try to pull them ever so gently to the left without them even knowing it. That's the only way you're going to get stuff done. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you hit it.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I just see a lot of potential for this administration, but if they don't get past this filibuster, then it's just basically it's a wish list. Ain't nothing gonna happen. You know, Joe Biden don't do enough tweets and stuff like that to make anything he does exciting. He's very boring, and I like that. With Trump, sometimes you have to wake up the next morning and see on the news that he done went on a Twitter storm and reposting racist shit and stuff like that, and you're just like, oh my God. Or he threatening to 1 minute to blow up North Korea, and the next minute saying he fell in love with a grown-ass fat man. You know, we ain't gonna get that from Uncle Joe. And, you know, people asked him today in their news conference, was he gonna run in 2024? And he's looking at them like, you know, why am I thinking about that right now? But he would be he's already the oldest president, and if he ran again in 4 more years, he would be even older.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to start to be those theories that he's just a placeholder for Kamala Harris, which nothing's going to erase that until they make that official anyway. But
well, I you know, they keep making that argument, but you know what? Kamala was on the ticket, right? Kamala was running for president. We didn't choose Kamala. They chose Joe. So stop with this, you know, they did it intentionally so they could put Kamala in office. No, we had an opportunity to during
do that,
to elect her, right? They didn't. She wasn't even.
Well, it's not about that, Brad. Right? It's really about, hey, y'all want another black person around the country? I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it's a very loud dog whistle, because you're right.
Of that. Right, it's the fear of that.
And that's they will do anything to energize their base. Hey, they're coming to get your guns.
Right.
There's caravans at the border. There's open borders. Yeah.
There's Muslims. What else can we scare with? Hey, you can't marry your relatives and stuff. You can't be having sex with I guess, because that seems like that's what's going on Fox News. There's a lot of inbreeding. Because again, as what the lawyer said, why would any reasonable person believe me?
Right. Well, before we get out of here, Mr. Berry, what you got?
I'm still surprised by the fact that you can't have sex with your relatives. But anyway.
Yeah, me too, because I got some fine cousins. I got some fine ones.
Yeah. But moving on from that, I will point out that Joe Biden did say that he is willing to try and push things through and everything without Republican support in his conference today and everything. So it'll be interesting to see if he follows up on that. But even if he does, it's always going to be hard to get.
Yeah, I mean,
Democrats on the same page anyway.
Right.
For example, his picks for cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
It's two agents senators who have said that they won't support his picks for his cabinet unless he picks an agent.
Yeah. Mazie Hirono and Tammy Duckworth, I believe, said that unless he starts addressing more diversity with Asian Pacific Islander folks, then they're not going to support any more of his cabinet nominees. Now, in the last day, though, they kind of backed away from it because the White House called them and gave them assurances that, number one, they will have a Asian Pacific Islander liaison now in the White House, but that is not a cabinet level position.
Right.
So that they can now start to address that. See, Mike, you're touching on something, though, that is at the, it's funny. As Democrats, you can say Republican obstruction, obstruction, obstruction. But the biggest concerns of obstruction right now for Democrats is other damn Democrats. Okay. Because all it takes is one to say, hold up, I got an agenda, and if you don't address it, we stopping this whole thing. Because we know if I agree, you still need Kamala to hit that gavel. But if I'm out, Kamala don't matter. So if you want to make me happy, you're going to see, no one senator should hold that much power, whether it's Joe Manchin, whether it's Mazie Hirono, whether it's Tammy Duckworth. No one senator should be able to just shut it down. Exactly. I agree, Pinto.
That's Marvis, who just walked in with a new puppy toy.
Oh, I thought Pinto was playing with it, and it was timely, so I agree with Pinto, because being black and white, he kind of can see it from both sides.
Both sides, exactly.
Yeah, I get it. So don't give him too many pork skins, because his black side might like it, but his white side gonna get the sugar. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, that's gonna be the thing. I know he's starting to see, hey, we may have to do this alone, but doing this alone means either reforming the filibuster or getting. And see, here's the thing. Reforming the filibuster is a waste of time, because you can reform the filibuster so that you can get the HR bill passed for civil rights, because it's not a budgetary thing. But then when you need to do infrastructure, you can't reform the filibuster for that. When you want to do clean energy jobs, you can't reform the filibuster for that. After a while, if you keep reforming the filibuster to cut out certain parts of legislation, you might as well just get rid of it.
You should
stop playing with it.
You should get rid of it. And here's the thing. I mean, honestly, I don't even know why there's discussion about it, because bees don't take time to explain to flies why honey is better than shit. If
how to use that.
I mean, seriously, there's no. I mean, what's the discussion about? It's shit. That's what I'm here for.
When you put it like that, I got nothing. So I'm going to end it on that note.
What's that conversation like? Like, what you get ready to do? I'm going to get some honey. What you get ready to do?
Yeah. Like,
there's got to be some shit out there somewhere,
Stop talking to these flies. Stop talking to these flies.
That's the moral of the story. Stop talking to these flies. That's what you got. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to end it because, man, this has been very informative from Jermaine, as always. Yeah, we're definitely going in. We're running overtime. So thank you, everybody, for joining. This has been another spirited talk on Head to Head with Brian Parker. Catch us on YouTube as well as on Roku. And if you want to be a part of the panel, whether your ideas are in line with the folks on the panel or it's opposing, we would love to hear those views as well. We're very open, we're very nice, we won't bite, and we won't let Lori have a gun while we do the show, so you don't have to worry about it. But please send us a message at theparkermedia@gmail.com. I'd like to thank my panelists, Lori Parker, Brad Cawthon, Michael Berry, and Pinto. And as always, the franchise, Jermaine Parker. We'll see y'all again next week. And as always, whether you've been vaccinated or not, wear a damn mask. See y'all next week.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking